What's up, this is GM, and before I start, I wanted to tell you about TubeBuddy. In case you don't know, TubeBuddy is a free website that'll help you manage and grow your YouTube channel. Thanks to them, some of my videos even show up as top results. Want to give them a try? Check the description below for the link. Today's product is TOPELOTEK's 10.1-inch MeteorT10D tablet. It has well, first off, let me go and flip it over because pretty much everything I'm going to be telling you right now is listed back here. So if you can't keep up with what I'm saying, you can just pause and read these off. But as I was saying, it has an MTK 8163A quad-core CPU. It has a 10.1-inch display with an 800 by 1280 IPS touchscreen. It has a front camera with 0.3 megapixels and a rear with 2 megapixels. It has a 2GB DDR RAM and a 16GB HDD hard drive, which is a little strange for a tablet, but what are you going to do? It has a G sensor, uses a micro USB 2.0, and has a TF or micro SD slot that supports up to 32GB. It has a 4500 milliamp hour battery and Android 6.0. So I'm just going to show you the sides of this box. Not that it really matters, but in case there's something here that I didn't mention that you would like to know. Anyways, so in the box we have the tablet itself, and it has a screen. It came with a screen protector, which I've already put on. I didn't do the best job, as you can see. There's a couple bubbles around here. But besides that, we also have the charging cable, which is micro USB to USB, and it did come with the wall charger. And then over here we have the OTG cable. You can see right there. And then we have a manual, which is in English, luckily, but personally it doesn't give you much more information than any other manual would, which is just the general functioning of it. So I'm going to show you how the product works and looks, but first I want to mention my Patreon. Patreon is a site that lets you donate money to help support my channel. However, you get stuff out of it as well for donating. You get perks such as extra drawings for giveaways and sneak peeks at future videos up to a month in advance, just to name a few. You can find the link to my Patreon in the description below. Alright, so this is what you might consider a budget tablet. So you probably want to know if it's worth getting. Even for a budget tablet, it's kind of high priced. At the moment of this video, it was about $100. So you probably want to be sure if it's actually worth buying at that price point. So let me show you the ports first. So I like that it's nicely labeled on the backs here. Might be a little hard to tell, but right here is where the micro SD or TF card would go. Right here is where the headphone jack is, and then the charging point. Here we have a little port for HD cable, and then of course the mic is a small dot here, which you won't be able to see, but it's labeled right there. Rear camera, sorry about the focus, there we go. Then we have power, volume up, volume down, which personally I think it's a little strange, because volume up, if you're holding the tablet like this, would be pushing here up, and then this side would be down, which I personally am not a big fan of. But it doesn't really matter too much, because you know, usually for devices it'll switch sometimes, you know, depending on how you have your device oriented. But this one is stationary, which a lot of devices are, so it's not that big of a deal. Alright, so as I mentioned, it does run on Android 6.0, but the newest operating system as of the release of this video is 9.0. But it's still pretty good considering not all new products will have the newest operating system. So I'll go and turn this on quick and turn it around like this. And as you can see, the lock screen is pretty standard. Here's the mic if you want to, like, say, call Google. Here we got the camera. And then I'm just going to push this up. So I'm going to go to settings real quick. And about tablets. So as you can see, as I mentioned, it is Android 6.0. It'd be better if I turned it like this. So it's a little bit bigger. And I'll just angle this down a bit more. So there we go. So yeah, like I said, not that big of a deal. I don't really personally care about the operating system as long as it's not too outdated. Now for the display, this might be an issue for some people. It may or may not be, honestly. For me personally, I think the resolution is good enough. I use tablets mainly for watching movies
and TV shows, which and YouTube, which honestly it does a fine job on that. And yeah, I used it for Hulu and Netflix, which they both work perfectly fine, no issues. As I mentioned, resolution I personally don't mind at all. Right now the resolution looks low, but that's because of the internet. So as you can see, it's pretty low resolution right now, but yeah, so personally I don't care too much about the resolution. It looks fine to me. So on your screen you might see the little like loops going around, like kind of that's just because I'm recording a screen, so that's just something that automatically happens. But yeah, so like I said, not big issue. However, an issue I do find is the speaker isn't very good. It doesn't get very loud, and even when it's at max volume. However, a good way to solve this is to connect it to a Bluetooth speaker. So real quick, I'm just gonna raise the volume all the way so you can hear it. So yeah, it's not too bad. Personally, I would hope it'd be a little bit louder considering the speaker, or considering the tablet size. But otherwise, it's not too bad. So for most people, I would say it would be good enough. But personally, I like a speaker that's a little bit louder and a little bit more clear, because the volume is coming through the back of it. So the battery usually lasts me about 4 to 5 hours, which however, this will vary quite a bit based on how bright you have the screen, how loud the speaker is, etc. I usually keep the brightness at 50% and usually use it for streaming videos, so it can drain the battery pretty fast that way. I do like the width of it. As you can see, it isn't too thin, and that's very nice because, you may have heard of the Apple issue of phones kind of bending in half. And so I wouldn't be too worried about that happening for a tablet, but that does reduce your worry of it breaking in half or dropping and it just breaking. But it does feel thin enough that you'd be able to carry it around. It's definitely thinner than most laptops. The screen protector it comes with isn't very good at all, in my opinion. It gets scratched very easily, which isn't too big of a deal since you can always buy another one pretty cheap. It's very customizable and settings are it isn't very customizable and the settings are pretty standard. However, if you're looking for just a basic tablet, this will do the job. As you can see, settings are pretty basic, which honestly, if you want more customizability, you can always download an app that has a different launcher and settings for it. Also, for most of you know, even though it says it's 16 gigabytes, the amount you actually get to use is usually less. So let me go ahead and go to where is that? Storage and USB. So what you really get is 11.26 gigabytes, which isn't too bad. That's 11.26 gigabytes you can use for apps, photos, etc. And if you add up to a 32 gigabyte micro SD card, you can, of course, store other things onto that, which can then, of course, increase your limit, which is always good. And I also like that it didn't have too many onboard apps. So here are the apps that are currently on it. And the only ones I installed were the blue light filter. Let's see, Hulu, Netflix, and Prime Videos. And the reason I download these 3 streaming apps was just to make sure they work. Because for some tablets, not all 3 will work. So for me, all 3 had worked just fine. But as you can see, there's not that many onboard apps that you wouldn't want. So, of course, people want a calculator, calendar, camera, Chrome, clock, downloads, drive, file manager, FM radio. All of these other ones is something you would pretty much want. So they're not bulking it up with random apps that you really don't want. If you get for example, let's say you get a phone I have Metro PCS personally. They bulk it down with about 5 random apps that I never want to use. So that's nice that it doesn't do that. It doesn't seem to allow split screening from what I can tell, which kind of bothers me. But that just makes it a little bit harder to multitask with it. And if you're not really caring about multitasking, then that's not big of an issue. It does allow screenshotting, which is, of course, standard nowadays. The camera, it's pretty bad. I do not really like this camera at all. As you can see, even when it's just facing the table, but I'll lift it up a bit, it has a bit of a tint to it. It's a little hard to tell in this, but the tint in it is a little bit closer to a reddish which I really don't like. And it's not, the tint isn't even just from low light, which I at first thought it was just due to low light, but it's from pretty much any light, which is not fun to see. However, I don't care much about a camera. Personally, I've never used tablets for their cameras because every tablet I've gotten pretty much has a pretty bad camera. The only thing I usually use pictures for, or camera for on a tablet is if I want to take pictures of a board or notes or something like that, which, you know, even if it has a tint, that's not big of a deal for notes. Overall, it is a decent tablet. For $100, I think it's worth getting, but mainly for casual use. I wouldn't recommend this if you're looking for a very high-end tablet. For that, I would definitely recommend going name brand and dishing out a little bit more money just to be safe about it. Alright everyone, that's it for this video. I hope you found it helpful. If you did, please like and subscribe. Link to this product is in the description below. If you have any questions, leave a comment below or tweet me. Be sure to check out TubeBuddy and my Patreon below as well. Thanks for watching.